how exactly is it The Witcher 4 if you're not playing as The Witcher? You know, if you're not playing as Geralt of Rivia, this is not a The Witcher game. So The Witcher 4, by and large, does not exist. It's fan fiction. It's completely at odds with the established story and lore, and is something that nobody asked for or wanted. You know, CD Projekt Red are a bunch of hacks. Nobody likes them. Nobody appreciates them. Cyberpunk 2077 was garbage. Witcher 3 was garbage. And Witcher 4 is going to be yet another nail in their coffin. They're never going to recover from this. Never. And people are just going to sit there and eat up slop until the company shuts down and goes bankrupt. It is laughable how people seriously tried acting as if CD Projekt Red was some, like, staple of the gaming industry, like one of the best things to happen in the new 10s. And in reality, they were always slop. They were always bottom of the barrel, just bacteria feasting on, like, the corpses of dead slugs, you know, rotting in the sun for, like, 3 summers. You know, that is CD Projekt Red. Absolutely nothing of value in their entire existence. And we are going to see this really embarrassing realization among the general community just how much of a nothing burger Witcher actually is. Because Witcher 4 is going to be underwhelming. It is going to be disappointing. It is going to be broken. It's not going to bring in fans of Witcher 3. And above all else, it's going to become more and more obvious just how much better The Legend of Zelda always was. You know, this is like the reality when it comes to The Witcher 3. You know, this is the reality when it comes to like CD Projekt Red and like their little merry band of Robin Hood like thieves. You know, this is the reality of like their brand, is that they are not writers. They cannot create an original concept. They bought the license to The Witcher, who was plagiarized from, like, you know, English author Michael Moorcock, Elric and Melanie. You know, The Witcher was never good. It was never interesting. It was never fresh, original, exciting. It was just this derivative piece of fantasy media that people latched onto because they had nothing else to play. It is quite simply like the video game equivalent of Game of Thrones, essentially, where it's just lowbrow, thinking it's intelligent, thinking it's making some deep point about society. It is The Last of Us tier, just bottom of the barrel trash. It's even following like the same similar template, right? Where you have the original release, Witcher 3. Nobody played Witcher 1 or 2. You have the original game, Witcher 3, about a guy, you know, in his relationship with this young girl who he has a father-like relation, like, so you have that, you know, exactly like The Last of Us. And now they're doing the same thing in which you play as the girl in the sequel. Ooh. And, like, this should, much like Ghost of Your Toy, be a massive red flag to anyone who's seen this happen to any Western-controlled franchise, because they're not making Ciri the protagonist because people think she's an interesting character or like her or respect her at all or want to see her again or think she's going to have all these contributions to the lore, because she doesn't. Ciri is being pushed because it's a cheap way to push some like lame feminist power message, right? It's some way to subvert and destroy the original material. Those of you who have read the original books, unfortunately, know that Ciri is not a Witcher, cannot become a Witcher. It is not really a thing. You know, CD Projekt Red is just, you know, bending over backwards to make her a protagonist when in reality she is not and never will be. You know, that's the issue here, is that Ciri is just not capable of being a protagonist. You know, she is not an interesting, well-written female character. You know, Ciri is a complete nothing burger, and I'm tired of pretending as if she's some like milestone like gaming like female lead when like nobody cares. Okay, absolutely nobody cares about Ciri. Nobody cares about Geralt. Nobody cares about The Witcher. It is a dead franchise. And right now, you just have like people who refuse to let it go. It's kind of like The Simpsons in this sense, right? Like, they've never produced anything good in their entire existence, but out of some misplaced sense of nostalgia and loyalty, people stick with it no matter what. They'll bend over backwards to try and say CD Projekt Red did not screw up Cyberpunk 2077. They'll try and tell you that The Witcher 4 looks good and exciting, even though it doesn't. Like, they'll try and tell you that, like, there aren't a bazillion red flags when it comes to like The Witcher 4. Like it's all just a gigantic cope. It really is. And I'm very glad to see it like begin to fall apart. Like people are beginning to notice the patterns, and like these kinds of female protagonists are beginning to become more and more unpopular all the time. It's becoming less stigmatized to address the fact that like these kind of female leads don't belong and that we don't want them. Like the game just isn't going to be good. It's not going to be well written. It's not going to be engaging. It's not going to be fresh, original, or exciting. It is going to lag far behind the decade-old Breath of the Wild at this point, and all of the other older Zelda games as well. Like, what exactly is The Witcher 4 bringing to the table, other than the fact that, like, oh man, I'm such a Witcher fan, like. The Witcher is something you really need to move on from. You really need to grow up. You really need to understand that there are better games out there, namely on Nintendo consoles, and your slop fetishized, porno-brained, just degenerate take on like medieval dark fantasy is just a stone's like just an asteroid belt away from ever becoming culturally relevant or significant, not only in the gaming space, but in the general fantasy space as well. I've heard people say that the Witcher books are legit good fantasy, and that's just something that I have a good little chuckle about. Like, read more books. But seriously, though, like, it really can't come soon enough, like, the downfall of CD Projekt Red, the downfall of the Witcher brand, and especially the downfall of the PC fanboys who have propped up this series the way they have. Like, the CD Projekt Red are not good developers, they're not relevant, they're not interesting, and I'm very tired of people putting them on a pedestal. Like, this presentation, showing off The Witcher, did absolutely nothing to excite me. I will not be getting back. I will not be playing The Witcher 3. I will not be following these developers going forward. It's over. And I encourage all of you to speak out against and fight these people going forward.